Ebusia for Yamama Kwaba eba the Gawa Hour Jumedi so na maybe say wapomuden ho nsem say I'm your host Tina Sapon. Hello and welcome to the Gawa Hour. Please share the link for us. Join, share, like and click. Invite and tag friends and family. Invite, share and Gawa Hour is here. Hello and welcome to the Gawa Hour 4. I'm your host Tina Sapon. Please share the link, share. Today we're going to be talking about Opwdds services. What is Opwdds services for early intervention? Your host Tina Sapon is seated. Invite and share and let's go. Ebusia for me pamcho se wa ba so na wa share link no e de amame mumra na yenidi ya pomuden ho nkomo na me bisa se wa pomuden ho nsem etesen na watwe bia the Gawa Hour jumedie no ye de bremo e wo edinkra multimedia intino frewunua na obi nsu no frewobi na yen hye jumedie na se mumra na ntwetwe ya pomuden ho nkomo. Please share the link and let's go. You're welcome once again to the Gawa Hour. I'm your host, Tina Sapon. Please share the link and let's go. Share. Today, we're going to continue our conversation about early intervention. Today, it's mainly going to be the services that early intervention provides. So please, invite and share and let's go. This program is proudly sponsored by Opwdds Organic Skin Mixture. For all your skincare needs, contact Opwdds on 917-836-3155. 917-836-3155. If you want the hardest money transfer in town, I recommend JudePay money transfer for you. Please download the app and you get $15 bonus. Just put in the promo code Edinkra and you're gonna get $15 free. So download it from it's JUPAY. JudePay. Ebusia for me pamcho se mo abaso na mo share e de amayen na yen fa dwumadie no enhyehyɛ so sese ya. Welcome to the Gawa Hour once again. I'm Tina Sapon, your host for the Gawa Hour. Please share the link and let's go. We are going to talk about the services provided by early intervention. So today I have my guest, Miss Victoria Yeboah, who is a social worker who works with families and children with disabilities and developmental delays. She's been here before. She has spoken a lot about early intervention, but today we're going to focus on the services that they provide. So please share the link and let's go. Pacho sawa baswa na wa share link no e de amayen. Ene ye ne yen sister Victoria Yeboah e na ebetwetwe nkomo. Wa kyerɛkyerɛ ne ma bebree eni so efa early intervention services ho. Ene obekyerɛ yen services are early intervention no omodeba timpacho so abaso na wa share na ye de nkomotwetwe no ahyehyɛ so sese ya mpamocho share ni sana mo share emayen sese ya na ye nto aso sister Vic ya makwaba eba the Gawa Hour jumedie ne so
sister jo mpacho medase
no mpacho mpomo te say
nyame ada roma just a bro na ma bro kakra party be ne den obo ade ama ya hoodin de na ye daso ti asia ye won kwan de na aduma chede Nyankopon de ache ye no so ye decide say ye be share ama afofra na ye de be boa afofro ye de na ya bro ye mbro yo ya na ye say ye ba entina
yo
entina nemo
yo and na yes sister Vic are you ready in tebusan for mon share link no se wa ba so na wo de comment ato ase honom na yatimi ama a shout out into no one share program na enche de be hyehyɛ so Mr. John Oten o so o share sister Ama Ankoma enso so sister Catherine Papa Few also was our share Mr. Patterson Sia also MCOG Michelle Baby Awobia and DJ Jem the CEO of Edinkra Radio Yachiamo Dache Hene Ofusu Asante Yachiao Baby Awobia. Your morning show is very dope into everything for enche ye di jumedi no ebe hyehyɛ so nti mon share na yenkom sister Vic Ya can't be brave after early intervention home and a baby toa jumedi no so and as early intervention services in the so into so over my a little step back and I said ya cano kakrano ube refresh your memory and not ya toa so from there.
Okay. Sister Dramida say, so sure last time now you meet you can be for early intervention services. So. Na you can be say it's a process be a so come right a services be a any support to be a you provided with children with a developmental and I say a intellectual disabilities. Into a kind started with autism spectrum disorder. That's not the only diagnosis a bit to me I used to those services. No, you will be to say ADHD, ne other disorders. No. Can use those services. Into your can services be to say occupational therapy, speech therapy, right? And I can ABA, which is specifically used for children with autism spectrum disorder. Into your casano, you can be say o started process na ube meeti with your initial a service coordinator, or no be guide you through the process, no. Ewo near maybe as I gather information or gather free or insurance family will go ne saying DNA how DNA will share a free services no into no o can in no gather information na wa make or a list of providers or more evaluation except first of all we evaluate our clan who say or qualify for those services no. Into no evaluation process and then you can say it started from referral, right? Self-referred by the parent, and I say a social worker can make a referral, right? A clinic doctor also can make a referral, and a parent and also can self-refer themselves due to a be a bind their toe. Say awufobia who say woba bibi nkoyi ana say developmentally no. Or fall behind her and I intellectually no on meeting goer wow to me refer and you can be so referral and a bar first person you ongoing a service coordinator and I will be meeting now fee or take it that or structural process anymore then you're gonna have ongoing service coordinator I'll also be continue with services and be making referral be guide you through amawa evaluation. Inti se wo hwa ye kasa na bibi ba mu se Opwdds services, right? Inti nkola na ya diagnose omo with autism spectrum disorder and developmental disability and delayed no. Omo say ongoing service coordinator no e find it out to say and I say oye assessment ni nyina we no hu say akola no be need additional supporter. And I say Opwdds services then obe make a referral and obe make a recommendation. Inti eno na de eba ene ye topic ya ebe kan wasem which is Opwdds services. So you can say Opwdds cra because you abbreviate a tracing and a den. So you can say Opwdds services simply a stand for Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. Inti no sa a state agency bia sa Opwdds a state agency who provided support and services to children or people of all ages. As a year before, no can say be early intervention no. Or provided services to people of all ages who have been diagnosed with developmental disabilities and I say intellectual disabilities, right? So there are certain diagnoses qualify akolano for those services and Opwdds services be to say autism spectrum disorder ya kan ho asemi some developmental and intellectual disabilities and ankola normally or a binum ewo IEP ya kan IEP a individual educational plan na say first na ya kan 504 so sa plan na akola no betumi qualify. So akola can another person can have one or two or more of those diagnoses. A man qualify for those services. Now, OSHA services here, can be say for early intervention. Basically, me start here free nkola age it play a role very important role in receiving these services. Osha enkola omo at the age of below 8 years and now from 7 and below no. Normally no omo qualify for provisional Opwdds services, which is the full services that Opwdds provide for people with developmental and intellectual disabilities. There are services maybe. Services no cry can was Opwdds services and I say or apply for Opwdds services are the services now benya yedi ken abubo biso occupational therapy, speech therapy, ABA, which is purposely for children with autism spectrum disorder. Your family support services, which includes home care services. I think it's the last time your question there was a question that came up like that. BTC home care services and respite care services. And you sign also physical you can after school program. And also so your part reimbursement for clothes. Sometimes in area and colonies they can be reimbursed of who will receipt now you can submit and then you can get reimbursed for those. And you ubetimi enya nurse. Akla depending on aklano ne adaptive behavior na say the diagnosis na the severity of aklane diagnosis no obetumi enya nurse as a home care in home nurse, right? Nurse bebe fie aba be hwe no ne ade afi nso so no obetumi enya bibi to say medical, dental services, mental health services, which is the big piece of this. And now also residential programs are dodo na nim say you can say group home no I provided 24-hour service 24/7, right? Services to the children. Sometimes they place them in these institutions and I say residential area, we're not gonna say institution, but residential areas are 24-hour services. There were also ongoing job coaching because in Kalani bi wa no wenyin nti no person ye adwuma, they want to become independent. Nti services like a training those kind of people job a function, because the goal is to help these individuals to function right in the society. And transportation from or to and from doctor's appointment. And they can also get services like care coordination, which was another topic that came up last week or question. And social skills training. These are some of the services that Opwdds offer to people with developmental and intellectual disabilities.
Yo, Sister Vicky, that's bebre na obo so na ansa obe nya services we ehefa na obe sha CFE. Okay.
Me da say first of all no, as I say you determine say aklane ye eligible for those services. To determine and I say who is even eligible or qualified to receive Opwdds services. So can be there are 4 main criteria as a aklano and our requirement is a aklano emiti another person umiti. But I say aklano ya bobo diagnosis should be diagnosed, right? Or should have 1 or 2 or more of the diagnosis are autism spectrum disorder, intellectual disabilities, developmental disability, seizure, epilepsy. Be so to say, sometimes be cry to me accident be an bibi and etochima when the central nervous system no na affect yakala no be okro ntumi nkasa wontumi nyeden enante. So that is 1 out of the 4 criteria. Esa aklano should be diagnosed before the age of 22. Say yakasana can be say ages play a very big role in this. Esa aklano should be diagnosed before the age of 22. As I see you who say aklano diagnosis now or no is gonna be permanent, right? It's a diagnosis no, a permanent diagnosis. And last one, as I say, or have that diagnosis no impair no. It should be seriously impair the child to the extent say aklana cannot function properly in the society, right? And independently, So what you say? Into these are the 4 criteria, and I say requirement as I say akola bi ana obi biara obe receive sa OPWDD services no o meet.
Yeah, into me pacho before obenya OPWDD services no. E say o front door meeting ni bi ana say just like that na o care coordinator no am these services no.
Okay, so yen started from say yaka who qualifies for that services until so akola no all these 4 requirements ni bi a yeka ho asem na, then that is where the process actually begins. And there are some documentations that you need. You have to apply for those services. Yes, na say akola diagnosis na you provide the services no. You have to apply. Everything you have to apply. In the application process, there are, I think, 6 steps as you go through. First of all, there are some documents that you need. First of all is the OPWDD forms, right? They call it transmitter form for determination of developmental disability. It is also form we were here. This is one of the documents we here. It is how fill our form we. It is our form we need basic information, about the child. And a person now who hear services, the debit is a date of birth, address, Medicaid number, the country of residence, mailing address. Like normally when you are applying for Medicaid services and as a Medicaid insurance, now those are that. And I will share you also a listed type of services now your boss. So which services do you think you need? And this fee say all those services listed are now your kikan wasem. So fee say home care services now here, then you're gonna take. If you say here more than one, you can take it because one, you be say you determine a client say or qualify for those benefit services. That is one of the documents that you need. This one that I show you here. And secondly, akolano as I say you sign a psychosocial assessment, which normally na ubetumi enya every school akola no wo IEP na say ya evaluate already those psychosocial psychological assessment, right? Ubetumi enya every because our psychological assessment na ye assessment bi akola no be meet with either a clinician and as a psychologist obe assess akola no based on intellectual ability. So the adaptive ability, say be akola no utumi nante, utumi tro, utumi actually comprehend and understand what people are communicating to the child. Inti and also important. Inti na make us say in a situation like that, So when akola no or IEP, those documents can be important or you can use it. Also psychosocial assessment, which also include akola no letter history. Right? Intino ebe can be a fakra diagnosis or war. Ni akolani to me ye ni ope ni ompe, those kind of things in the should be included. And as akolano bi wa like last time ye kasafa autism spectrum disorder no hwansem you can say it can coexist with other disorders. It can be other developmental disabilities and now say it could be medical and intellectual. Indeed, say akolano or any medical issue. Say be wa akola bi wa na or autism and or ADHD, not time with seizure and epilepsy, right? And I say or diabetes or high blood pressure. Indeed, you need all those medical reports, the immunization, all those medical record, from the doctor. Indeed, these are the documents that you need. When you have document then you have to do the application. In the New York State, you New York State, and you New York City. This also New York City, your regional offices, right? In in all the 5 boroughs: Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Bronx, and Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. So those 5 boroughs in our center, OPWDD, and Office of People with Developmental Disabilities Office. In Tijuana, obekwakoye application. So you can get this form now. You can even get it from online. You can mail it, and now say submit it in person. right? Into where we are no. What can be say na front desk? Yes. Front door meeting. Yes, you have to attend. You can attend before you do the application. And now say obey application no every and sana wa attend. So who attended sa front door meeting na no nia ubenya free mu ne say ebia ubenya obi amana go through application process no and now say document no obetumi review if this is the document that you actually need and now obetumi assist you ama put all those documents together. So why yen so why apply area ebema what services na say question be our will be answer so obetumi ayeden I ask why apply area was submitted document now wa turn front door you wait for eligibility determination. That is where the thing is. And you know, ubenya letter normally now it should take like 2 to 4 weeks. But looking at the situation right now, any influx, any what is going on, shortage of workers, you know, it could take more than that. It could take more than that. And you know, that's within after 4 weeks. Now when receive any determination letter, you have to do a follow-up. You don't have to sit down and say, oh, mobile frame. Yes, so they will reach out to you through email or mail. But if they don't, as a parent, and so you follow up, you have to reach out to them and say, maybe my application, no, it take you time, say I haven't received any feedback. What's going on? And so when your determination letter now, first Aklano can be eligible and as a qualified to receive those services, which is great. Sometimes, ebeba they will say Aklano is not qualified to receive those services. You can always appeal. I say I apply for Medicaid or Medicaid. Na services be wa here. Na doctors na say the child actually needs these services. Be it a dental near the braces near the Omonso so more clinicians ni omo doctors are omo evaluate everything that you send to them. They review it. So until your marking scale be a to home, who say yes, Atuan Aklano follow within those criteria. No, so because of that, Aklano is eligible for that. Enti se basa na se Aklano ye ka say unqualified, you have to do appeal. So appeal. Sometimes people can go 3 times, and sana. You determine say or you eligible. Appeal now and make it way for another now say independent review board. Look through into your destiny and in the end yet those Opwdds services for a third party and on be review. If they deem it say Akolani eligible, then Akolani can receive the services. Let me make it a little point here. So you can say Akolano and you're eligible. Unsa can be say age. Inti say aklano nye eligible. Na say aklano wo 8 years below 8 years and 7 and under. That child can qualify for provisional Opwdds services. Pacha what I say. Provisional no means say obetumi receive all those Opwdds services no, before the age of 8. After 8 years no way. She can because Aklano qualify already. And it is advisable say parents is Aklano like you can early intervention. Ube start processing them. Send ye be ya Aklano be to me those services even if that child doesn't qualify for those services now. Ube to me enya sa provisional services no before the child reach the age of 8.
Yo, Sister Vic, si bebre busia force afi na waba so a ene ye ne Sister Victoria yobo a na etwetwe nkomo efa Opwdds services ho services a oba ebehia se ekoba ne sebe oba yare for anase or your developmental delay from a certain age to certain age or services ayedema wo mo yabobo so say akola no itimi nya speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, ene de keka ho nyina, home care services so anase respite services we say nyina no ubenya nemum ewo anamon a se utu ansa na wanya sa services eno ho nkomo na ye di nti se mpacha so aba so na wa share program no e de amayen dwumedie omo afa ho ka our cares organic skin mixture our cares se honam mu problem bia fa bedan wo mo se uhia enku ni bia eno ane se obefro mo 917 836 3155 917 836 3155 or dry skin or oily skin or acne or rashes bibia we here bia no for our cares so ope gels and say ope scrubs bibia we here bia our cares organic skin mixture say what your house so at the amount afi na me canfo do pay money transfer and so at the amount download the app no na we obey transaction baby say for promo code and na so we bo edinkra e dey ahye honom na wenya with this wenya with $15 free e dey akasika wo dey send no ho we ya partial na edamu so e dey ma nti no mon download do pay no na ubenya bonus e dey aye your friend say busan first afi na waba so de gawa awajumedie no so na wasugusu a utie no ubetimi ahye yen e wo YouTube na yesan wo Facebook na say we use digibox no so a channel 1 ubetimi ahye yen wo hono jumedie yatuni de gawa awa no na utie no na watwe bia Ghanaian Healthcare Workers Association a yetwaniti asegawa yene edinkra multimedia yesi enu meba betwetwuma apomodin ho komo tie bisa wo se apomodin ho nsem etese ene early intervention ho asem na yeka yedi kan edi nkomo ni bia yeguso a yedi nyame adoma na wotwe sene yebesan aba betoa enkomo ne so because early intervention no ho asem no tenten ndi empese beja mu mfinfin next week the parent ono so go through all these early intervention services ebeba na ono so ni testimony ana say ne how our famu ana say adanse obetimi ade afa early intervention services no ho ono so abeka na yenyina yehu etoda ese asembi safoa ebie asembi pono nti no yenyina esanse yenyina yenyepe ana say ebi wani mu chen ebi nti no ebia na oba autism ibi autism no ye on stages ebi dey very severe ebi nso mild and as moderate nti no ho asem na ye keka na ebi so apomodin ho nsem etese etoda ye hye ya yetimi hu sakra de bibi nkoyie but na ya yese ebia ye de ne ko Ghana ebeboa etoda Ghana boa etoda Ghana so emwa nti no se ekoba ne se untimi mfa kra ne nko Ghana akonya ana se services ewo hanom ubenya ne for free no esese yetimi ma ye ni ko ye ma ne ho omo ne ye daache na omutimi nya sa services minim akola bia through these services no ene so nam honom ne ye ka cho se na autism kra na unyini ne nyina eden pa financially no it put a strain on you because untimi more hours no double ni ade no untimi mo bi sebe or autistic child your life you put your life on hold basically said ye be ya akran benya services no inti no aside that no so no esan say nyame adom ye wo oman ye wo nhihye yapa wo honitin se wo maame no so no se untimi enye adwuma te se de se oya nhihye wo ho ba ne nyina ne se o qualify for it inti this avec through this no se koba ne se untimi enye adwuma do you get any social security service benefit kakra de ma oba to support you ana?
Okay, so there are certain diagnoses a qualify Akrano to receive social security income, right? And so you have to apply. And free, you have to apply. We go through evaluation, all documentation. It's a long process, but at the end of the day, it pays. My one be bra, my client be bra, a client be yensa. Emutu ewo severe omo follow within the severe and ebinum so follow within the moderate, but they all qualify for social security income, but you just have to apply.
And me pacho social security income no you share all parents how much you make and sana you qualify wana say just like that, and you qualify for it. Because me who instances where the parent, father no making a whole lot of money into the young qualifying, although the mother is not working, they classify them, said they are below poverty rate, and also has them to say.
Yeah, sister Tina Meda, sister, what is that question? Are you true? Because sir, services you can wanna say those benefits na be to say Medicaid, be to say food stamp, cash assistance in safety net, right? Safety net, is there purposely for people with disabilities. Omuntu menye juma and I say family from who fall within the low income range, omone qualify. It is all making a lot of money. Now say you can qualify for Medicaid, you can qualify for food stamp, cash assistance. Now income guidelines, right? Which I don't have it right here with me, and I don't want to make any mistake. And it's all fall within those family, and sometimes need depending on this family size. And there should be a limiter as a will make it before you qualify for Social Security income. Yes, it will make it $100,000 a year. Na yasi amount I SSI.
And I say I me put my life on hold to support the kid because my Ukraine I was about to have my dream. In the internet, you won't cut me a little slack. Na me to me yes can be fan share and crano. Na eja yet me I am my near quacolad who ye because without that and can me a double and make that money. Anna.
Right, Sister Tina Medase. Let me put it in this way. 10 BI and I'm a catcher, my client, and sometimes I do even educate my own community, right? My year Juma with sister me, I know how certain things work. Those are safety net for family with children, right? I'll make it less. And I always tell people, say, if you qualify for food stamp, just take it. Sometimes in a binum tanase no mu meki omoke can sembi omunim. They don't actually have knowledge, but they will talk about it in such a way, say they actually know what is going on. They know the system. Sometimes who educating panocron you be a catcher and no they challenge you, but you work there, you know what is going on. It is sometimes in my catcher almost say this is what men can African yankan is a kata for any Spanish for a yusu a lot. As sometimes people say oh because if I have all these things going on mentally you are not even safe, right? When you're safe mentally you are sometimes you can be incapable of doing certain things or you might react in certain way. This is fee say ejumano I was in an to receive those services now because healthcare and especially mental health services is very expensive. Very expensive. It is all far memfane say we ejuma kese kosro na se won't qualify for all those services and I say be a Medicaid because Medicaid cover a lot of services, especially we are can ho asemi but it say home care services. Sometimes akolane bi wo ho onya 12 hour obi wo ho a day ebinya 8 hours a day, which cost a lot. And private insurance will never cover those services. But what in American say private insurance will never cover all those services because they are expensive. And sometimes they will try to tell you say oh akolano because they also have their doctors, nurses, practitioners over there reviewing everything. Even though sometimes akolano will qualify, that is why I always say it's advisable to always appeal, right? Even though akolano qualifying these private services, insurance, and we say because of the cost involved, they will do so many things and say, oh, we don't cover this. The services don't cover, your plan doesn't cover this. And this whole person will plan to cover, you have to pay more, which we can't. This whole fee say, because it's a challenging to have a child with developmental and intellectual disabilities. I tell you, I have clients sometimes when they come to the officer, I just sit down, I just look control because we run it, to office door, could be no computer, just obey free one was saying. So sometimes I just sit down and think, I say, oh, then what is actually going on in the house? For instance, you will obi about receive your services. I tell you, ono so ankasa mada no ewo no ankasa the mental health all the issues are all deal with. Plus nkola miensa ne nyina we wo ODD, some wo ADHD, autism. So that 3 children na no plus or no one mental health is so taking care of no. It's overwhelmed. Right? I say inti wontumi nye adwuma mfanhyen. Inti say adwuma no ena ebia wo be break it for time akola ne benya services because these services actually help. And like me any just say we see obi beba ha next week. Na wa betwa so aka ama testimony ene dia wakomu. Ne wakomu. Inti no like I said earlier on, I think it's a but as I said earlier on, say as I said you man so now the receive services now you have to because it has an income guideline.
You ebusia for safi na wabaso a ene yen komo efa autism spectrum disorder. The services are you providing. Ya kan ehho asem Opwdds and front door inti usha safe front door inti front door mu hono ehho na wo benya Medicaid service coordination na say esum Medicaid service coordination the omujuma omudie and as a self direction and also say self direction and also ho asem say.
Okay, so we application process no start at a attend the front desk a front door information services, which is the 3rd step. 4th step no say we contact care coordination agency. In New York no, there is only 3 care coordination agency. Last time bibi align services or something like that. I have the record. I have to it is those 3 agency no our provide care coordination no, they will provide you with those information. Sometimes you can get it at a information services and front door information session no ube to me. Then akolana determine is or you're eligible for those services and then you contact the care coordination agency. So with the care coordination agency no you be my care coordinator. Care coordinator, who is a care coordinator? Some normally no, they are ordinarily social workers and case managers, right? I had to say Medicaid. Now so choose a plan, healthcare, normal manage medical Medicaid, right amount. That's the same thing. And care coordination or mono will connect you to all those services. What I say. So it is a home care or no say they're gonna also ask you so many questions and look at the services that aklana qualify. At times, hardly say we parent and be looking for certain services because the information no crowd to get it. Sometimes people don't know where to start from. Like I always say, call 311. Na bisa question be person ubisa ade bia ubisa. If they don't have the they will connect you to the right resources. And care coordinators and care coordination agencies will connect you to all those services that you need. Ubo bibi to say self-directed
self-direction.
A direction. With self-direction and I said directed services. That means you say one kasa opese uchusu umpese uni obi abeye adwuma. Me social worker bia because throughout my life omo ba wan we cry beje me ba na say o me here case managers me say ebasa na bunya ne direct, right? First, wakwa na qualify we na say uchusu care coordination agency. Our only care coordinator ebeye adwuma ya connect you to those services no. Na say wo hwe na udru baabi. Na say wo feel say kwan a omode me fa so mani nje unti say me pese me manage my idea. You can do that, but you have to also qualify. There is another process you have to go through.
Me bacho self-direction no. No we be here broker I'll be taking care of all these edi amawana.
No.
We here broker.
No, you have to do it yourself because you want to do it. That's why you don't want to choose anybody. You be my budget.
Okay.
They will give you a budget. So say aklani here 5 services. Now your amount budget is say a month. Me funny say $10,000 or not $20,000. You have to look for those services. And our agencies will be provided with those services. And you're going to work within the budget, the amount. So that is why it's always advisable to work with the care coordination care coordination agencies, no, because they can look for
the
services and not the cheapest services for you.
Okay. I was for services ne ho asem na me ye ka no services ne de o mu ahoro bebree nti so wo asem bisa obetimi edo question at the comment section no so na ye bisa we bisa wo question na ye you are no Mr. John Oten was so o share sister and Ama Ankuma was so sister Catherine Kusi Papa Few was so I share DJ Father, Nampomo to say, Father Michelle Bibri was so at saying, Sister Messelin Kufo was so Mr. Ben Usu was so at saying, Mr. Eric Ofuri was out saying, Sister Messelin say when you have self-direction, you work with a team of people from all departments. Yeah, you know, say I think it's Sister Messelin. So it will name the every sa a year came home.
Sir, me patomate me jump in.
Okay.
Yeah, you always gonna work with people, but one now be yeden ebe china pe with services no. But what I say? Until you gonna work with a lot of agencies. And it's a fee say bia okay, me a minim say home care agency we wo and I say minim say agency we wo provide these services we are. Of course you're gonna work with those agencies. But wona obekwa akoye den e china pay those you because they're gonna give you a budget. So you have to work within your budget. Until you don't want a care coordination services, then you can choose this direction. Na wa sikana ye the amount budget na ye the amount. You work and you look for those agencies and you work with them.
Do you account for the money?
Actually everything operated by Medicaid, you gotta be very careful. And I say government services be will use you gotta be careful. Say amount budget now when you you always have to account for it. And I say, you say you have to account for it. Or evidence or receipt you always have to keep those things intact. Just in case they reach out to you for those evidence now, then you have it. And sometimes it will be evidence that Aklana is actually receiving those services. Want to me pocket it. Because in Yesika the amount say for sure. And I say, near my office, no, to receive those services. Until check and will be paid to those who are providing you with services. But you have to work within, say, amount 10,000 within the $10,000.
The emphasis on collar, bear me, no money here services now. A Caribbean budget and I say the amount yes, split among the kids.
No, it depends. Aklebia wo ne amount ye chairman because even though they are receiving services two people services it cost more than one person it depending on the type of services any budget I de be ma this I mean fan so one claim na ye determine say 10,000 is good for each child, then you're gonna get 20,000 to budget for those two children.
Your age limit Opwdds services in Juana?
No. Anybody. So share or more or group and residential facilities na homes na. Obi okra with this 60 years, 65 years. And so our honoma or receive those services because our residential area. But near ye can say as I say aklano. Any side diagnosis na you diagnosing before the age of 22. And yes, is when you're 30 years now, I can say you're diagnosing because it's hardly to diagnose those people because a lot of things, right? It go together with so many things and the certain behaviors and certain medical conditions, can bring certain behaviors. It's hardly to it's hard to diagnose those people, but younger age, but that means that doesn't mean when you want to mean those diagnoses, but you're not gonna get services when you are being diagnosed after the age of 22.
Okay, you can age one say Chrome Hanam say when you're 18 years legally no you're on your own to do certain things.
Right.
But let's see you be or you're severely autistic. Now or not me make on one decision, Emano. At what point now parent and I say a guardian I will share this person no ube file for legal guardianship ama nipa no and I feel so no at a point you know you do group home. Can you choose to say me mama ba no enko group home ba or me pese me ne tenana?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Oba, so fees obe to me a handle now what take care of a clana because sometimes, you know, if you do certain things and I want yes certain things, it will lead to neglect, which can call for ACS case, which you discussed last week, right? And you know, so fee say ube to me a shakolano, all right, without any problem, then you can choose to do that. But sometimes, you know, unkolane bi wa. The diagnosis is more than even 3, 4 plus medical diagnosis it has so many complications. Obi or bipolar disorder or depression or diabetes or high blood pressure or ADHD or just say it's a lot. One person can have like 5 diagnoses. In this case, you know, one crano is a lot to handle. Na klano bi o krana ontumi mpagya nensa ontumi nye ne ho hwe. That person no will totally depend on somebody to provide those care. It is a fee say wa ho odin betimi I always say caregiving no is not an easy job, and sometimes most of the times you need to engage in self-care because at the end of the day no one hwe ya wo caregiver no you can okra ubetumi ayare and I say ubetumi agya nipa no hwako. It's always advisable to take care of yourself. It is so free say ubetumi that's okay. Ubetumi aka say no, I don't want my child to be placed. Me I may take care of. Oh share rich people, a lot of rich people have children like that, but they have the money. They place them in their home. They hire people to take care of those children, even sometimes 24 hours because they can pay from their pocket. This office say you can handle that and there a cup of tea. Ube to me aye. And I ubisa question be say as I say akola want to me and make a decision. Yes, if somebody is not capable of making their own decision, you can. There is a way of doing it. Someone said last time I think it said first show no obi babeka a advanced care directives, healthcare proxy is which is part of it into obeka wasem. So there are certain things now which is over my area of competency, so I would direct that person for to a lawyer for legal advice because there is a legal issue when it comes to those kind of things. Say be what will be managing isika to say na SSI ye can wasemi obi okra wenyi or was 60 years 50 years but they can't even manage their own money until say appoint you obi. Court, it's a process. You can't just sit down and go and stand somewhere and say, "My sister, me ba." Even though one thing I also learned in New York State, you know, nobody has custody of their children. That is why sometimes the ACS can come in and ask a court to me joba if you win some. Legally, you know, if you wanna get a custody of your child, you have to go to court. Sometimes and say akola nene papa and then mame issue bomuna so mu separate na ba akon de akola ni tukwan without the knowledge of the other no call report to her. They can give the person like 24 to 72 hours to bring the child back until say ebia mo was issue na court I issue say you have the legal right to make decision for this person there is a process and I will direct that to the legal services. My client, I will refer that client to make the recommendation for the client to speak to a lawyer about that.
Okay. Ebusia for say afi na wa join ya me pamocha mo share program no na mo invite my ene yen sister Victoria Yeboa oye social worker on families and children with developmental delays and disabilities. Jeez. And children come out and yes say so obi oye disabled e kwan ya be fa so obenya services it's very, very difficult. Say who will be a or you disabled, ewa webusiemu, a banning financial support, emotional support, physical support, and then a quine or honum, and one is obe apply, ubedi emrana so now I apply edi amaomo. So who will be a ye disabled webusiemu, minia, and ya this, and yet asem ketwa, me who be. Nkofo bebre aminimu omo go through that, but nyame adom your system you betimi provide with these services said be ya so benya ukomu ebe gogo kakra nti no ho nkomo e na ye die no sister. Your friend is obi say, why can't the parent be the caregiver for the minor child?
Okay, so you can do that, right? And then I can say depending on say these services we sometimes so we a parent, right? And an immediate family. Your friend is a parent, and I say a child. Now we provide these services, especially like for home care services. Now, first, you can so we are part of the family, and there is no fee and a payment. And you were a lot of advocates group. Omwaka said, no, this is not right, because sometimes the parents be it's so giant nyina it take full care of the child. Intina basa na ema ahokyere ba parent no na say ahokyere wo parent bi so sometimes I na meka your phrase yes mo obi na yahwe. Sometimes you have to assess the situation and find out what the family is actually going through. So what I say inti ebi wo ho a ebi na sika na hosem na aye den na say ya inti in a situation like this eno na ma advocate group bi no ejeto omo se ne lawyers be fighting until now we have some agency you call city CDPAP or whatever so omo so take it upon themselves to say okay, as a parent you advocate to say we have a advantage my parent and our family members until you can sign up wa crowd bet me ahwehwe agency wa enroll WhatsApp program no, then you take your own child over there. Say me bano me de naba me here mo services was like self referred. I refer home yeah assess no na yeah as a mother ne you betu ya oka na what me provided those services no if it is Medicaid, right, and yeah can be says those if it's a home care services like yeah can until you be wa you betu me aka say okay, because of those CDPAP and I say home care agencies will say okay, they will also determine if the child qualifies for that and a family no qualify for that.
CDPAP, you want some? I think some bisa about a few agencies. Na maybe say me sister obetimi ahwe ono anema no. Almost you can do that. So and I say almost some random because we've been trying to do this for a very long time.
Okay,
and they are giving us a hard time.
So on say na you can be say those with Medicaid.
Yeah.
Omo here services, let say home care services at certain age and I say yenyi biti se obi wo ho a minimum obi a ono hwe ne kunu. I say ne kunu nya stroke. Ono hwe ne kunu, but the man and say you become responsible for your family member. Enti say o pese wo tukwan and now ji break bi and alcohol holidays bi a you have to find somebody. Ain't no.
You see the pap ne ho 7 na say chire madwe because there was a time when me and Nini ku na like be mani here service and I was trying senka me and be hwe ni ku no na nka almost because say oye na ere ne de omo ntimi emma onhwe ni ku no nti ese ne ba momu e ne hwe no, and then the ban social they shouldn't use the same address. So as I say, I find a way for the banner. Not fortunately, not the banner or no address. I was able to get that. Almost some random one answer, it still stays the same.
Okay, so there is always a way of doing things.
Okay.
There are a lot of agencies out there. Obia, I calculate this in New York City. There is a lot of like 100 and whatever, 300 and something social service organizations. You can always leave it and go to the other. Until you have to do your research and also resources, information session. You have to find out from those and as I find out those agencies are provided because lady Anna Mekana me I'm in the school and a nikrunya stroke. okɔ school ɔyɛ adwuma but nurse so opo obi a ono hours no wo fie no eye ono na hours a wo provide hours na ono ni fie no wape obi oye nadamfo a one ne be they lived in the same address but the thing is you have to fight it because ade bi wo ha nye se okọ ba ko a o ka kire say no we don't provide her ayeti say wa cost o koto ade o cost we na sa ade na ye to man ne bo eden a utumi free wa cost of fro na say ne awo pe na ebi ni wa utumi cost of fro
that is the city pap no
one day city pap meka omo ye under those kind of a year ubetumi provide services for your family member ubenya pay your home care services but I think say a diabetes because this is not what we actually talking about.
All right. Okay, so your friend is say so the self direction service no minimum obi a no need no dey ma broker. So broker no na eye bibia ema no so when there is service bia obe hia na actually the service the medical service coordination and broker no na etimu app na omo hwehwe service no dey man because no per service amane ba like ne ba no energy ho so be fa public transportation but intellectually no akra na nkasa ntime mfa public transportation into no na ama or apply for self direction service said be obenya obi a obetwene akra no said dey fa public transportation either than that so no I know so say there are a lot of services in so omo edema like home care ne dey yakeka ho asem no nti budget ya yeken let's say ya amount 10,000 but the services no say more than 10,000 now do you have to go out of pocket to say what the best so and say you have to eliminate some of the services?
Yes. And anything na make say unse care coordination no a part of the application process, right? Enti no say wonya care coordination e wie no kra na say uko interview e say ye interview, right? Enti no ye interview at the last part of the process no ye say one wo care coordinator and a care coordination agency no e be ye adwuma. Enti one ne ye adwuma. Sometimes I tell people say woni ma de bia you go quiet and then you just have to sit down and learn, ask more questions. Enti obi wo hwa obetumi started with the care coordination agencies no all the a year omo yusu when you a lot of information, when you a lot of resources until ofi say at the end of the day I can't be with these people me ame pese me taking part in the self direction you can look for somebody. So ofi say reaching out to those services is going to be a problem but they all call for money. Oko for broker na yes wo hwehwe dan now I call see broker so obeju broker fee and you free, nothing is free. Inti Gano will come out of a budget na ye the amount mpacho what I say ain't having a broker no and I say a second person I will be boa a connect and I say I yes service we na me here na my fro na what connect me to those services and I'm used to so but you have to work within the budget until so go over your amount 20,000 na services now wo hwehwe na say wo broker na hwehwe amount no because wo broker bia wo ha o ya de obi tim de bi tache obi a wo ne mra wo de ye adwuma. So what I say it doesn't having a broker and said self direction doesn't mean say you're gonna get things cheaper. It could be cheaper a bit higher than using the care coordination agencies but you can get somebody like that if that is what you want. You can get somebody who can look for those services and also be connected to those services that you need.
Okay. Ebusia force afina wabaso a ene yen common efa Opwdds services bebree e wo honom ene ho asem e na ye ka no nti se o question na wabisa na ye yiwa no nti your friend say group home maybe na me share program bi na it was very touching na akra no autistic but non-verbal inti no na said in a group home inti instead of oya adwuma instead of say ni parents couldn't handle him inti no na your friend say why omo pair obi ma no nipa no a omo pair ne ma no wo honom to support say in terms of rent no nipa ne render ne service e de ama no to no na hwe de ne kɔ adwuma ne bibia eba ne sa me fa ne se wo de wo bakotena care home na eno so Medicaid ne fa ho ka anase ne SSI anase disability checks na oje no eno na ye beje e de check ka man anase how does it work?
But as so we bisa sa question interesting. Unim bibi Medicaid as our program is fully funded by Medicaid.
Okay.
But what you say? It is what the akola no kosa group home. Now say wo as a parent, I say wo family member na den corner single say I can take care of it. So owo sika and owo bibi. Then you have to hand over everything. Me kai say na ye wo baby ana me ye adwuma previously. There was a situation like that. Mother no couldn't take care of the child again until no they buy. So they placed the child in the residential area facility. Na at that time when na akola no wono ho no receive food stamp and cash assistance. So odi akola ne ba or give you up no fee say odi akola ne ba keke no wa keep full stamp on ne cash assistant no enti no me say asama ye ken it take like a year for the agency to get back that but the basa na say one year na say agency be no be year but they can take a legal action because in one would take care of the child and so everything the child has you have to hand it over. Because Medicaid they provide the services and you don't have nothing. Say akola receive full stampa. Ye the mount because of akola no. And ya would so one kasa wo full stampa and it's yours. But ade bia e wo akola ne demo to say but no most of the times or more place your mom be or na parent and our family they're not even alive. They don't even know where they are. Some of them are on drugs, they homeless, they on the street. They don't even know where they are. And sometimes didn't say any family member I'm gonna sign document. Just say they have to appoint, court has to appoint somebody. Until bit say wo obinum wo Omwamba residential area and facility, omo capable of doing certain things. I remember I used to do my internship at one of the mental health services, and then we were doing working with people, older adults who have developmental disabilities. I was so surprised to see say one of them was driving and has a driver's license. But sometimes, in the course of treatment, right? You provide the services, Utuminya output. Meltdown or to me behave. So sometimes I just sit down and I say how can they give this person driver's license to drive? Because so road now in case of anything meltdown. You understand? Sometimes and then I can say so road now so be here near maybe sometimes you have to let it go because you don't know what the person have, right? Until sometimes we have to let certain things go. So that person your man a driver's license or driver. He's capable to certain extent. Some of them, your money services, then they will have somebody or is a therapist, and I say a sociotherapist or something like that will go to the home sometimes or be making sure say they are doing their laundry, they paying the bills, right? Because some of them sign themselves out. No more say we need an apartment. They're gonna get all those services or no one apartment. But then and click say me see me near and say me tuya me bill. Any other I like shelter you way. Sometimes brokers free hosa 24/7. Or move to me a fresh say client we are more than a buying. Untiana rent. Sometimes be $50, but the person is not even paying because you need that skills, say utuyantino they will get you somebody or be assist or be once a week and not twice or no because I say we'll make you sure so we'll take you medication. Nina is part of case management. So
now my question is what did you call group home at a point to me to someone and say okay group home no crab then I'm not interested anymore person or be with me yes and then do they still get the same services no no
you can still do that but it's a legal process. You gave the child quite now offer so many papers and son who sign it will serve out you have to go through those process again, which is not gonna be easy. So until any time before you make any decision, you have to sit down and think about it. Have a thought about it. Do a lot of consultation, your research, because who give you up? then that means it's going to be difficult for you to get a child back. I say ubianya ACS case ni ajenkolano. You have to go to court, and the lawyer will mandate you to take certain services and go through certain process before you get your child back. By the time ubenya ubano krano, na a chabe 1 year, 1.5 years to 2 years. So into any decision you make, you gotta think about it, because you can always go like try it, go through the court system. But my advice, if you want to do that, go to the lawyer, speak to lawyers, and take it from there.
Yeah, if your loved one is in a group home, now are you allowed to do that? And then is there a time limit? I'll bet me like out of the country for a little bit now.
Yeah. So thank you for that question. Yes, of course. That's your child. One says sometimes no be or the akolano court residential area na on give you total parental rights. Until sometimes if there is a form and a change of medication, everything that goes on with that particular person, you have to reach out to the family and inform them. Right? They are the decision makers. They can make certain decisions. So everything you have to communicate it with the family. And it's a family, if he say, okay, every holiday be and at Christmas be yes, you reach out to the residential facility and let them know, say, okay, but first of all, they have to know all this paperwork, documentation, everything is intact. And they will give you, it doesn't matter, I say 1 month, because sometimes in the ABA agency we can say you can't have this amount of time. Or program or services unless you can provide those services, because we are free, they get paid for the number of days. They say free 10 a year, 1 week, they're not getting paid for 1 week because the child wasn't in the facility. Sometimes tricky kakra. But if they know the parents, sometimes now keep for more than a week, because sometimes in a binum bar or acha 3 days, no afraid say the child is coming back. You can always reach out depending on what you have in place. Say, okay, me you're involved in the child's life. I just want to spend days with the child. I say, I'm making sure say you sign a form. They have medication, medication in time or so. You have to be responsible, because what they are anything that happen, you have to respond to that and answer those questions. You're in medication, you're in BBS or you're now you catch us your appointment. That's it. The child should be back in the facility before this time.
So you want to be out of the country?
Oh, depending. Say say obi an appointment. I remember there was a client. Call Italy. You can do that, but what I'm saying is, depending on the child diagnosis, it's up to you. So what I say, because me one family or abuafo ofia or mobuano, but that person is capable of doing certain things. Just say a bad baby need the certain things on to me. So in a situation like this, sometimes what they do is say they will let somebody go with you. Okay. Yeah. And so you can afford that. Then will be what you may per se workers in the back will be also a client, Only work a big click pa. Open a sem or bony into family, and then I be to say a bushia, and they will can say, Obia, Yebema, Asmesi, and I be a Victoria, our company, Ebia, Sister Tina, na Yedeneko Italy for 1 week. But say, may be a odia. Baby, expenses. But I'm just gonna get only paid for. Yeah. So
okay, yan sha de we na ye kasa no clothing allowance be ho nsem ebemu. No, is it annually? And I say was specific name as say what and now when reimbursement for sa name nana.
Yes. Depending on say you care coordination. Ebomwa. There are certain times utuminya enema more than what you even expecting, because always you need some people on be advocating for you. Because for instance, me TSA, there are so many things I do for my client that they have no idea. I have to make certain phone calls. I have to stay on the phone. I have to argue so many times. And you know, say I like to talk. So if it comes to that, we will argue till the kingdom come, until that person receive the services. You know, and, you know, we do a lot of things outside. Like I was telling you, me were out of the office. I'm on vacation, but they keep on blowing my phone because they say certain idea be a me to me aye. Mpacho what I say. So we do a lot. Inti na make be say so we be a one any year juma. To certain extent. Then why not? They can help you with everything. You know, you bet you kwan ya obefa so ni awese auto. Say your budget expenses are we work no. If you are able to provide, because so we show more residential facilities now. They have money, a personal allowance money. Even though agencies not have to provide them with certain things now, they have their own money from the Medicaid.
Is it that
they have
SSI?
It can
Be the SSI.
Right, it can be that. Sika you allocate into be or personal allowance depending on obinya more than obi. So until they can use that money for whatever the personal stuff that they wanna get. And you know that is the same procedure. Until say akola ntarebi na ohia and I say yeah, I quite remember some of them were good clothes, expensive because they have the money. Why not? So you can get reimbursed for those services.
Obviously, cash you, because I remember said there was a very close friend of mine, sister. Sorry, Sammy, can say me. Like the services, no, you see, she can get reimbursement for empa for the man. So for empa no. Basically, bicycles, iPads, you name it, she bought it, and the na agents are no new mu use, and it was like now they were short of staff. Into another case manager where if you want not for fraba case into yes, they run her into circles. Into service coordination, can you change it? Let's say agency will use you. I can't mention an agency A now we use you, but you are not getting the services. Can you change to agency B and answer you are still stuck with agency A?
Excuse me. Of course, you're looking for the best. And you know, and are more services, right? And you say agency A, Emma me limited services are why stay with them? Pacha, what a question. What you say? Yeah. As I say, we'll move on. So that is why say your mouse had 3 agencies now. And now whatever a number of agencies are will care coordinator no, a coordination agency now provided to you. No, you can always yeah, make you recommendation. I'm aware say we choose you from no. What I will advise people to do, they say you reach out to all the 3. Ask them. Sometimes I ask, what do you offer? What can I get? What can make me change my mind? They say, as me provider now me want no, me switch no, because everybody is selling a business. Into no be a sell it. It say menya 10 services waha. Na say we be me 5. Why waste my time with the 5 agency or be me just 5 less? Abroad there is more. So you always have to go for more and the best one. So you have to do a lot of work, and sometimes you have to advocate for yourself. And sometimes, so I know, say, when it comes to social services, it's overwhelmed. Yeah. And navigating those systems, no, is I work in the social service, right? It's a lot, right? Sometimes we also have our own issue, like mental health, vicarious trauma we experience from our client, because sometimes me call office now me biopsychosocial assessment with my client. Sometimes some of the information that I got maybe feel mentally I'm exhausted. I don't want to do nothing because I'm mentally drained and exhausted because a lot to go through. And why would I waste my time with agency that I will get less, and where there is an agency that I can get more? So you gotta do that and think about so many things before you make certain decisions. And yes, it will be kind na udiso. One kasa your research from hey kromo I will be say some na will be any and the more you ask, the more information you get. Yeah. Sometimes if you can also read and write, you can even search it up. Right? So
Okay. Yes, sister Nidia Hodges or say, so happy to hear home care and CDPAP was mentioned. It's very helpful for people with this disability. CDPAP is to take care of any family member, and home care if you have any insurance and Medicaid. I know, no, this is very good information. Thank you so much, Sister Nadia Hodges. It was for say I feel na joining ya the gawa our jumedi ne so and our sugusu utie no and there ye can OPWDDS ɛho asɛm services bebree ɛwɔ hɔnom efi akola sɛ wowɔ akola with disability a efi ne nkola bremu a kosi sɛ obenya the age of 21 and ase 22 efi hɔ kokra nso no ɛtoamu akosi sɛ nyame bɛto ne nsa afrɛ no ɛno ane sɛ obɛhyehyɛ akyira kwan na wagye de ɛyɛ de homu sɛ ɛyɛ free, but you still have to qualify for it. Inti ene ye sister Victoria yeboa oye social worker and a komo sister ene families and children with developmental delays and disabilities and eye adwuma. Achichun komo ni bebre now nyame ya adoma next week ye besan ba betoa so na de wo ho no so no ya sign e de aba na ya bonepo na ya sign de another topic so assign e de aba aside Medicaid service coordination, self-direction, CDPAP ni home care no, yes sign or another service or hono moi, yen sister ebe sign e dia brain. Ghanaian Healthcare Workers Association ye trying to short segawa. Yene edinkra multimedia yesi mumpomuden ho ehia yenti na watwi bia no yene meba betwetwe nkomo e wo fie ha na ebisa mo se wapomuden ho nsem ete sei na watwi bia ye the topic beba topic a ye de ba no nso e topic a eho hia yi ye research yi ansa na ye de eho nsem aba na mefa akonya we say so achia ebusuafo ne adofo a ewo so enche ye be sore so nti se wo question na mpawche fato hono na bebisa yen sister Blue Ivy Blue also Oshaye, the president of Royals, Queens and Kings fan club, Nanajwa Achuma Mansan also Oshaye Yechiao, Sister Mary Frimpon also and Sister Salome or Hene Ampong also Oshaye. Michia Ghanaian Healthcare Workers Association members in na Mr. Jerry Edinkra, big boss in Pomote say also Oshaye and your friend is saying, Sister Esinam Duvu, also Oshaye. Jumedi or more so ya same ya de bremo na what you be Arcas organic skin mixture. Arcas is dear air cost already mubia. So person already no etoso na kama semi dia. Inko amedesra Arcas. Arcas say nkoma woni ne bedi afa o skin no hono na wahwe so na waye hunkun e de ama o kama nti se wo dry skin wo oily skin wo acne wo rashes bibiara se wasre nkun bi ama won sachi apopo aye bibie wo ho for Arcas e wo 9178363155 obema wo nkun a ebeje wo afi Arcas emema nso etimi sra bi nti mema no ye njamumu eno ane so obeka che Arcas se wo hia OG shades obeye OG shades e de ama already no atoso kama so opesika mane asembie ni ho partial na edemu a mekanfo Jupay e de ama download Jupay so we use iPhone na unim de obe download e na we use Android so a unim de obe use e na so obe download na wo ye transaction na e be bisa for promo code e na so de nkra be hye so wo de nkra hye so a wo $15 discount and as a bonus you be $15 bonus any discount bonus e dey account sika ho nti me fa ne say o send $50 a ye che $15 free e dey account sika ho no nya $65 umpe we na apɛ de he ti download Jupay na ubenya $15 e dey account osika ho wapomude ho nsɛm ete say nyame adoma na ɔkye sɛ ne ye be san e be hia mu e wo fidwe mu ye be san ne sister e na asan aba ye se yaboa ye ho yi topics ne de e wo ho bebre nkomo bebre a ye Ghanaian communities no ye ntai eni is either say ye de kwakotena Ghana ana say de be ye mpaibo mpamocho etoda nya nyina na ye mpaibo ebi ho a ye anamon bi kituwa bi e na obetu system no ewo services bebre ema yen mpanifo si obi nimu a obi kire Enunti na Ghanaian Healthcare Workers Association yani Edinkra radio yaje ato ye ho se sadadwo yi nyina mo fa so ayen ye be hye mo ye be boa mo ama information bi a wo hia bia no ye de be ma mo nti na watwe bia no ye do suko ne yakwohwehwe services any information no na ye de abrɛ mo se de be ya wo so wo ho ebe han wo inti se wo so a na wahye dwumadie no enche ye be sori so enem se ye time no yakọ enkomo no baby a ede ye kọ no ekọ animu na me fa kwanya we so ede achia the CEO of Edinkra Radio DJ Jem DJ ye chia wo baby a wo bia MCOG me chia won so mona mo so masen na watwe bia ma ye de gawa awadwumadie ede bremo nti se wo asem bisa a obetimi ebisa yen sister Blue Ivy oboy abasu bebre MCOG o say great job, thank you so much my boss nti enche ye be sorry see se o asem bisa last question answer ye be ko se o services we nyina evaluations na wo ye me fa ne se wo ye ma wo ba no mfiti ase no at a point no omutimi san request say san be ye re-evaluation na yen hwe say still na qualify for services na say wo ye one evaluation na we
no. So with every services I will receive and they have to evaluate the services. Want to mean one services because there was time limit. So what I say, and you know, say yema aklebi me fa ne se o receive occupational therapy. Na se still akrano we use services for a year. Now there is no improvement. That means that it's not working. They have to evaluate it. It's to say more IEP. We say every year they have to do reassessment and re-evaluation. That's the same thing with a Opwdds services. Ain't you know, my advice is like yearly, so it could be 6 months, it could be from 6 months to a year. And you know, you have to always do recertification like you would do with even insurance and because you have to make sure say insurance and a year jumani ade yes I be reassessment I share the level what I say because services and be na maybe our care coordination because say these services are really important at this age. Let's start from there. What I say until say at a point in time no akola no here those services are there has to be another evaluation to see akola no the level wedru what I say the functional level. Intino say no receive memfane say occupational therapy na onhia bi me a adintia say aklane da so receives those services. They have to do a re-evaluation. Intino you have to do reassessment like every month, every year. Obeko doctor who you physical. That's the same thing with that. So on to me fa one a year. I have clients I must send you more out for to receive mental health services and I say for psychiatric evaluation that I need those diagnoses to do whatever I want to do for them. Sometimes within 6 months, depending on what you are using it for, no, it was specific. Say me funny say it's our services when you can use an evaluation that is more than a year. You can use it, right? Intina say, oh, before say anything you can say, gather all those it has to fall within a year. Intina if it is 1.5, even if it is a year and a week, no, you can use it. They have to do reassessment and a re-evaluation. So it's always gonna be doing re-evaluation to assess the child. And I say something can change, things can change. If you are not before no here medication. Then at a point in time, no new medication because of ABA. I say ABA services are all receiving behavior no is okay. So the child doesn't need the services. They have to evaluate. They can always be an amendment to the Akrana record, but once you put it in, you can't take it out. But you can always amend it or do addition to whatever the child has. So yes, 1 year they have to do re-evaluation and assessment because something has changed or something should change.
Yo, ebusia for yamre no ya be inti ahanum na emre ye de jumede nvis nyame adon dasende and as next week ye be san ba betoa services in so be more honor more say the better actually, and then we also have another guest coming on us Obeka sister hunting. Next week we're gonna have 2 guests. Said me can no say we are interested say say also be share experience and na so be friend me manager DJ Jem and say MCOG and also betimi so I inbox me e Facebook tin asapon na ya arrangement no na what bia e ba dwumadie na ye de the gawa our dwumadie no e de abremo depending on your guest no time no ain't mean sini dua say wukuada bia. It could be on Wednesday or it could be on Thursdays. And I say, I remember I said, "Will be frame." So you're very interested, but or Saturday no you're available until no, and also pennyphobia can't say bet me I program no Saturday. You are had no mama Edinkra and the Ghanaian Healthcare Workers Association. You see, I jet my pumudi home some ye metri so na what you be no matter to come. This say we are interested and one says the Macano, Obama, me managers and me, DJ Jem, MCOG, Aswati, and I said me also reach out to me. Your best share home, not waiting me about Jumedian so. And I feel so, and yet she inquire and I can. So, brofo and I person can. Ubeti me aba na yenye na yaka ye ho abomu apomudi ho nkomo na ye di even although say ye ka chi kra no ade bi ohod ma yenim ni din wo twi mu nti na che say obi ka ye chi English na na ye de ko ye ka chi kakra ye poto kakra na ye de afrafra sa na ye de ko because ade bi ohod me ubi sa me say di twi din ni say ya wa ha me hu na maka kire nti no eno ane say ye guso a ye na me fa akwanya we so a che the Reverend Miss Patience Anthony, Reverend Anthony. Waba so o share ye chia o baby a wo bia. This Vic. Nyame adwa next week ye be san be hia. Essence ni sent no ye de nkomo no e be hye fridge mu na nyame adwa next week ye be so na ya betoa ye nkomo twetwe so. Ekosi the ending of this month there. Ye guso a service teacher adofo na yenko.
Okay, lady can make the nchiabema watiefo because omuni wa program we ya ye eniho. Mesia chia Apostolic Church. Fo nyina me chia mi co-worker Robert. Miss Robert, I know you watching me. I say good evening. Madam for Sister Vivian Livermore, Sister Esther, yenene kwa sora oye the child care provider on so mechiano Sister Comfort minua ba kope on so mechiao uni ukunu ne wo ma me amemba Sarah ne Rachel mabusuafo mo UK omo hwe me omo wo Worcester omo so hwe me mechia omo nyina enamfo obi ha utie me bia ameka se mechiao.
Yo, and sister Achi Nyami Adoma Echna no Panso, the morning show with Dache Hene Baso, very, very interesting program. In Tiachano pa 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Dache Hene edit the morning show Ebe Bremo, Obaso ana mwa babeshe. Very, very interesting, I'm telling you. Inti me so me fa akwanya we so acha me mama me papa Mr. Frank Sapon ene mama Alice say mensa adofo am wo so say ye ba na mama me hye ya na dwumadie no ensi peye ye da mwase bebre say ye ba bia na mojebre na mo be tie de ye wo mamo Ghanaian Healthcare Workers Association of New York, Delaware and Connecticut for yachia munyina executives and members yachia munyina sister so wasem ba
yeah mama chia me baba akon wo Ghana every time your baba line bia no will stay awake just to watch us mother within mother me sana me from but you Judith me catch us me chia
Yo, ebusia for na aha na emre be ma ye ho kwan ama ye de gawa awa dwumadie no ebesi nyame adoma de se ne se de me kan ne ebesan ba be hyiam wa ha asan betoa ye nkomo twetwen so oba de ne kan ho no ma ho ban de obedie ni de obehye oma no emomo nyame adoma da se ne ebesan hia musumfo tina saponi na me de enwum we na eja mo kwan se ma ye ere nsada Thank you so much for always joining us and for sharing the program. Without you, there is no Gawa Hour. Thank you. Salute you all. Tina Saponi Makramo.